Ladies and gentlemen, life is a fascinating journey. Along the way, we meet countless people, family members, friends, mentors, and colleagues who we believe are part of our support system. From childhood, we are taught to trust, to lean on others for guidance, and to expect that those closest to us have our best interests at heart. It is a comforting narrative, one that gives us a sense of security in an often unpredictable world. The idea that someone else is looking out for us, that someone else is invested in our well-being, provides solace in times of hardship. However, I invite you today to step back and reconsider this deeply ingrained belief. What if I told you that no one, not your parents, not your friends, not your spouse, nor your mentors, is truly your well-wisher? What if I said that the notion of someone else being entirely dedicated to your well-being is not only a myth but a dangerous illusion that can prevent you from taking control of your own life? While this may seem like a harsh or cynical perspective, it is rooted in a fundamental truth about human nature. Self-interest is the primary driver of human behavior. Now, before you dismiss this as a bleak or negative outlook on life, let me clarify something important. I am not saying that people are incapable of love, care, or kindness. Of course they are. People can be loving, supportive, and generous. But this generosity and care are often rooted in their own needs and desires. The love we receive from others, while real, is rarely, if ever, unconditional. It is conditioned by the interests, expectations, and emotional needs of those who give it. The idea that no one is truly your well-wisher may initially feel disheartening, but in reality, it offers a powerful message of self-reliance and personal responsibility. Once you grasp this truth, you can free yourself from the expectation that others will always have your back. Instead, you can begin to rely on the one person who will always have your best interests at heart. Yourself. Let's start by examining the concept of self-interest. From the moment we are born, we are wired to ensure our survival and to seek out what is best for us. It is an evolutionary instinct. Humans are, by nature, creatures who prioritize their own needs and desires, even when they seem to be acting on behalf of others. For example, a parent may sacrifice their time, energy, and resources for their child, but this is often driven by a combination of factors: a deep emotional connection, societal expectations, and in many cases, the parent's own sense of identity and fulfillment in seeing their child succeed. The act of giving, in this sense, is not purely altruistic. It also serves the parent's internal needs. This is not to say that parental love is insincere or that parents do not care deeply for their children. But even in this most intimate of relationships, self-interest plays a role. Parents want their children to succeed, not only for the child's sake, but also because it reflects on them as caregivers. A child's achievements can validate a parent's efforts, while a child's failures may feel like personal failures for the parent. In this way, even the most profound forms of love are intertwined with personal stakes. The professional world, this concept becomes even more apparent. We are often told that mentors and colleagues are invested in our success, and while this may be true to a degree, it is rarely without self-interest. A mentor may genuinely want to see you grow and succeed, but this is often because your success reflects positively on them as a mentor. It's a form of validation for their own skills, knowledge, and influence. In the workplace, colleagues may help you out because doing so strengthens the team or increases their own chances of success. But when helping you becomes a threat to their own advancement or recognition, that support can quickly dry up. Think of the relationships you've had with coworkers or supervisors. How often have you seen someone offer help or advice only to withdraw that support when it became clear that you might surpass them? This phenomenon is not limited to any particular industry or profession. It is a universal aspect of human behavior. People will support you as long as your success doesn't come at the expense of their own. Once your achievements begin to challenge their position or status, the dynamic changes. This is the nature of most human relationships. They are transactional. People give and take based on what they stand to gain or lose. This doesn't mean that all relationships are cold or calculated. Rather, it's a reflection of how human beings operate. We seek relationships that fulfill our needs, whether those needs are emotional, physical, or professional. And as long as those needs are met, the relationship flourishes. But when the balance shifts, when someone no longer feels they are gaining something from the relationship, or worse, feels threatened by it, their support may wane. Even in romantic relationships, which are often idealized as being purely based on love and mutual care, self-interest plays a role. People enter relationships because they fulfill certain needs, whether emotional, psychological, or physical. We seek out partners who complement us, who make us feel good about ourselves, and who help us achieve our personal goals, whether consciously or subconsciously. As long as those needs are met, the relationship thrives. But when one partner no longer feels that their needs are being fulfilled, or when the relationship no longer aligns with their personal growth, problems arise. Have you ever noticed how often people claim they fell out of love because they grew apart? What they are often saying, without realizing it, is that the relationship no longer served their personal needs or aligned with their personal development. This is a common experience. While we may genuinely love our partners, that love is often intertwined with our own desires, needs, and expectations. When those desires or needs change, the relationship can begin to falter. In this way, even the most romanticized relationships are governed by self-interest. This doesn't diminish the value of love, but it helps us understand its limitations. Love, like any other human emotion, is influenced by our personal experiences, desires, and goals. It is not immune to the forces of self-interest, and it can be tested when those forces come into play. So what does all of this mean for us? Should we become cynical and stop trusting others altogether? Should we abandon the idea of love, friendship, and support? Absolutely not. What this understanding offers us is a clearer view of human nature, one that can help us approach relationships with more realistic expectations. It allows us to see that while people may care for us, their support is often conditional. Recognizing this can free us from the disappointment that comes when we expect others to act purely out of selflessness. Once we accept that no one is truly our well-wisher in the purest sense, we can shift our focus inward. We can begin to cultivate self-reliance, the ability to be our own well-wisher. This is the most empowering realization of all. While others may offer support and guidance, the only person who can truly look out for your best interests at all times is you. Self-reliance does not mean isolation or rejecting the care and love of others. It simply means recognizing that in the end, you are responsible for your own life. You are the only one who can ensure your happiness, success, and well-being. While others may help you along the way, the ultimate responsibility lies with you. You must be your own advocate, your own cheerleader, and your own source of strength. As we continue to explore the idea that no one is your true well-wisher, let's delve deeper into the societal expectations that shape our perceptions of relationships. From an early age, society conditions us to believe in the power of community, the necessity of strong family ties, and the idea that we must rely on others for guidance and support. This conditioning is not entirely without merit. After all, human beings are social creatures. We thrive in groups, and our survival as a species has historically depended on cooperation. Communities offer safety, shared resources, and emotional connections that can be beneficial for individuals, but this reliance on us comes at a cost. By placing too much faith in the idea that others will always be there to support us, we risk neglecting our own ability to stand on our own 2 feet. We are taught to seek approval from others, to measure our success by external validation, and to expect that our loved ones will always act in our best interests. However, when this external support fails or falls short, we are left feeling abandoned, disappointed, and often powerless. This is because we have outsourced our sense of security and well-being to others, rather than cultivating it within ourselves. Society also places an immense amount of pressure on maintaining certain types of relationships. We are told that familial bonds are sacred, that friendship should be lifelong, and that romantic relationships should be enduring and unconditional. But the reality is far more complex. People change, circumstances shift, and relationships evolve. When we hold on to the belief that these connections are permanent or that the people in our lives are guaranteed to always act in our favor. We set ourselves up for disappointment. For example, think about how often we hear stories of families torn apart by disagreements over money, inheritance, or personal choices. These situations reveal the cracks in the idea that family members are always each other's well-wishers. In reality, families are often subject to the same dynamics of self-interest that govern other relationships. A sibling may act out of jealousy. A parent may impose their will on a child for their own satisfaction, and extended family members may harbor hidden resentments that bubble to the surface when conflicts arise. These moments serve as stark reminders that blood ties do not necessarily guarantee unwavering support or selfless love. Friendships, too, are subject to change. As we move through different stages of life, our priorities, interests, and values evolve. Friends who were once inseparable may drift apart, not because of any malice, but because their paths no longer align. In some cases, this distance is accompanied by feelings of betrayal or abandonment, especially if one person believes that the other should have made more effort to maintain the connection. But again, these feelings stem from the expectation that our friends are our well-wishers, that they will always put our needs and desires on the same level as their own. In reality, people are naturally drawn to what serves their own growth, happiness, and personal development. When friendships no longer provide that sense of fulfillment, they may fade away. This isn't to suggest that relationships are inherently fragile or doomed to fail, but it does highlight the importance of managing our expectations. When we place the burden of our happiness, security, and self-worth on the shoulders of others, we relinquish control over our own lives. We become vulnerable to the shifting tides of human nature, dependent on forces beyond our control. By recognizing that no one is truly our well-wisher, we can begin to reclaim that control. We can stop waiting for others to provide us with the validation or support we seek and start creating it from within. The heart of this realization is the concept of self-reliance. To be self-reliant is to trust in your own abilities, to be confident in your capacity to navigate life's challenges, and to understand that you are the architect of your own fate. This does not mean rejecting relationships or cutting yourself off from others. It means building a foundation of strength and independence that allows you to thrive, regardless of the actions or intentions of those around you. Self-reliance begins with a shift in mindset. Instead of looking outward for solutions, approval, or guidance, you begin to look inward. You start to trust your own instincts, to rely on your own judgment, and to take responsibility for your own happiness. This is not an easy shift to make, especially in a world that constantly encourages us to seek external validation. We are bombarded with messages that tell us our worth is measured by how others perceive us, by how many friends we have, how well we are liked, or how successful we appear in the eyes of society. But true self-reliance requires us to break free from these narratives and to recognize that our worth comes from within. One of the key steps to developing self-reliance is to cultivate a strong sense of self-awareness. This involves understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, your desires, and your motivations. It means being honest with yourself about who you are and what you want out of life without being swayed by the opinions or expectations of others. Self-awareness allows you to make decisions that are aligned with your true values rather than choices that are dictated by the need to please others or gain their approval. For example, think about a career choice. Many people find themselves in professions that they do not enjoy or that do not fulfill them simply because they felt pressure to follow a certain path by their parents, their peers, or society at large. They may stay in these jobs unhappy and unfulfilled because they believe it's what others expect of them. But a self-reliant person would have the confidence to pursue a career that aligns with their own passions and interests, regardless of whether it fits the expectations of others. This doesn't mean the path is easy, but it is one that leads to personal fulfillment and authenticity. Another key aspect of self-reliance is emotional independence. This means being able to regulate your own emotions rather than relying on others to provide comfort, validation, or happiness. It's natural to seek support from loved ones during difficult times, and there is nothing wrong with leaning on others when you need it. However, emotional independence allows you to face life's challenges without becoming overly dependent on the support of others. It means finding strength within yourself to cope with adversity rather than needing someone else to fix your problems or provide you with a sense of security. This kind of emotional independence is especially important in romantic relationships. So, all too often, people enter relationships with the expectation that their partner will fulfill all of their emotional needs, that their partner will be their source of happiness, comfort, and stability. But this is an unrealistic expectation that places an enormous amount of pressure on the relationship. When one person relies too heavily on the other for emotional support, the relationship becomes imbalanced and resentment can build over time. A healthy relationship, by contrast, is one in which both partners are emotionally independent and can support each other from a place of strength rather than neediness. One of the most challenging aspects of emotional independence is learning to accept that people, even those closest to us, may not always be able to meet our emotional needs. This doesn't mean they don't care about us. It simply means that they too have their own emotional struggles, desires, and limitations. Expecting someone else to be your constant source of emotional stability is not only unrealistic, but also unfair. By cultivating emotional independence, you free both yourself and your loved ones from the burden of meeting impossible expectations. Of course, none of this is to say that relationships are unimportant or that we should live in isolation. Human connections are valuable and can bring immense joy, fulfillment, and growth into our lives. But it is essential to approach relationships with a healthy understanding of their limitations. No one can be everything to you, and no one will always act in your best interest. By recognizing this, you can appreciate the love and support you do receive without becoming dependent on it. Another area where self-reliance becomes crucial is in decision-making. Many people struggle with making decisions because they are constantly seeking the approval or validation of others. They worry about what their parents will think, how their friends will react, or whether their choices will align with societal expectations. But when you are truly self-reliant, you make decisions based on what is best for you, not based on the opinions of others. You trust in your own ability to make the right choices for your life, even if those choices go against the grain. For instance, consider someone who decides to leave a high-paying, prestigious job to pursue a passion in the arts or start a business. To outsiders, this decision might seem foolish or reckless. Friends and family may express concern or even disapproval. But a self-reliant individual would have the confidence to move forward with their decision because they trust in their own judgment and know that they are acting in alignment with their values and desires. This doesn't mean that self-reliance leads to perfect decisions or a life free from mistakes. On the contrary, part of being self-reliant is accepting that mistakes will happen and that you will sometimes make the wrong choices. But it also means knowing that you have the strength and resilience to learn from those mistakes and move forward. When you rely on yourself, you are not paralyzed by the fear of failure because you trust in your ability to recover and grow from any setbacks. In conclusion, the realization that no one is truly your well-wisher in the purest, most selfless sense is not a message of despair or cynicism, but rather one of empowerment. Life is full of complex human relationships, and while people may care for you and offer support, it is crucial to understand that their actions are often influenced by their own needs, desires, and self-interest. This truth, when accepted, frees us from the burden of unmet expectations and the disappointment that can arise when we rely too heavily on others for our happiness. And well-being.by embracing self-reliance, we reclaim control over our lives. We stop seeking validation from external sources and instead build a strong sense of self that is independent of others' opinions or actions. Self-reliance teaches us that the only person we can truly count on in every situation is ourselves. It encourages us to cultivate emotional independence, trust in our own decisions, and take responsibility for our personal growth and happiness. This is not to say that relationships are unimportant or that we should live in isolation. Human connections bring richness and depth to life, and they offer opportunities for love, joy, and growth. But by approaching these relationships with a clear understanding of their limitations, we free ourselves from unrealistic expectations. We learn to appreciate the support and love we receive while also standing strong in our ability to navigate life's challenges on our own. Ultimately, the message that no one is your well-wisher underscores the importance of self-awareness, inner strength, and personal accountability. It invites us to look within for the guidance, approval, and care that we often seek from others. By becoming our own well-wishers, we step into a life of greater autonomy, fulfillment, and resilience, one where we are empowered to chart our own course, regardless of the shifting tides of human relationships. Thank you.